Good morning, CrossFit Linchpin. It is March 10th, 2020. Good day to everybody. That's bizarre. My phone's being a little bizarre this morning, so my apologies. Today's topic is going to be, I received I put out hey, if you've got a question for a podcast or something, send it in to info@crossfitlinchpin.com, put podcast idea in the title, and we'll start getting to them. Well, it's cool. Things are starting to roll in, which is great. So I shall address a question or concern from somebody from the community. So this is from somebody named Ed. We'll leave his last name out of it. He says, Mr. Sherwood, which he shouldn't be calling me Mr. Sherwood. But anyway, Mr. Sherwood, I've been a member of Linchpin, and for no fault of the programming, I keep getting hurt, mostly due to mountain biking, which I have now given up. Apparently, 59 years old is too old for some things. My question is, if you have time to answer, is that if I start doing the workouts with the minimal weight, not even the scaled weight, so even lighter than the scaled weight, am I still getting in a good workout? Of course, I can always work on form, but due to back, Achilles, and shoulder injuries, I also realize that I need to be careful. And by light weights, I mean if it calls for a 155-pound deadlift, he might just have a 35-pound kettlebell in each hand instead of a 155 deadlift, which even would be considered a lighter deadlift in the grand scheme of things. I guess I'm asking, is that scaling it too much? My main goal would be to eventually get back to where I can at least follow the prescribed women's weights. Thanks for taking the time. Any help would be appreciated. I have gained weight from 170 pounds to my current weight of 200, and I'm afraid if I don't get this under control, that this could be the part of my life where the quality starts to go downhill. Again, thanks for Linchpin workouts. Love the videos and hope to move forward from here. So great question, real person, real concerns, and yes, we have the answers to this, but the other part is, if you just listen to that and you're like, I'm 27, I got no worries in the world. 35, I got no worries in the world. This dude's 59 years old. That ain't never going to happen to me. You are currently engaged in the process of lying to yourself. I'm here to tell you, if you are in your 20s and 30s and think that you hear these stories happening from older individuals, and that you will not have similar stories and therefore don't need to pay attention to them, or you can just kind of blow off and you'll take care of that stuff later when you get a bit older, you are making a horrible mistake. You are not special. You are not different. This will be your life if you don't make good decisions. Not to be alarmist, but hey, maybe you'll be the first person in the entire human race that the whole aging process just avoids them. So let's get to Ed's question. So the short answer is, he's concerned about, is he going to scale too much? And in scaling too much, is he still going to get in a decent workout? Short answer is yes, you're going to get in a great workout. Scale it as absolutely much as you need to do it in a safe, proper, and effective manner. There's something we used to say at the Level 1 seminars and whatnot, there's kind of a continuum. I'm sure this is in a CrossFit journal somewhere, that ideally, best case scenario, what would we love to have everybody doing? Constantly varied functional movements at high intensity. We want functional movements. We want intelligently programmed variance. Again, if you think variance means random, that means you don't understand CrossFit methodology. My apologies. So with intelligently programmed variance and then high intensity. And again, by high intensity, that doesn't mean that you cover your rear end in kerosene and light it on fire every day and have a near-death experience. High intensity means it's high, it's relative to the individual's physical and psychological tolerances. It just means you're working hard, you're pushing yourself. You're not operating in, low intensity every day. There's some oomph you're putting into what you're doing. All, of course, under the confines of moving properly with efficient mechanics and safety. That is what we want everyone to be doing. That's the path, and it's the path because it just works. It's just the most effective thing that you can do in the realm of strength and conditioning, to walk around the planet like a superhero and not be in the gym for more than an hour. It's amazing. So that's what we want. But let's say, okay, what would be the next step? I can't have functional movements with intelligently programmed variants at high intensity. Well, if we can do functional movements with intelligently programmed variants at low intensity, that would be even better than doing non-functional movements with high intensity. So I would rather have functional movements at low intensity than non-functional movements with high intensity. And even though intensity, if we get back to classic CrossFit methodology, long words that you hear at the level 1 seminar, that intensity is the independent variable most commonly associated with maximizing the rate of return of favorable adaptation, which that in plain English means intensity is that key element that when you add it to your workouts helps you get fitter faster, gets you to the results, gets you what you want, gets you stronger, the whole 9 yards. So I'm saying if intensity is that important, but I'm saying I would rather have functional movements at low intensity than non-functional movements at high intensity. And that's kind of exactly what Ed's talking about. If I do these movements, but I really scale it down, am I still getting something beneficial out of it? And the answer is yes. So that low intensity could come from one thing or two things. You could significantly reduce the loading and still move with a purpose, or you could keep the loading and significantly reduce your pace, or I guess three things. Or you could do both. You could both significantly reduce the pace at which you're moving and reduce the loading. But regardless of any of those things, you're still doing functional movements. And why we always said that I would rather have somebody do functional movements at low intensity than non-functional movements at high intensity is, if we take a step back as to why are we doing this, why are we working out, it's not to compete, it's not to go to the games for most people. And if that's your chosen pursuit, that's your chosen pursuit. But that's not the huge mass of people that show up every day to work out. And if they think it is, that there might be a bit of something delusional going on there. Most of us are working out to be fit, healthy, and happy, and have a very high quality of life, and be pain-free for as long as we can, to go hiking, to play with our kids, to ride mountain bikes, to do whatever it happens to be, to work in your yard for 3 hours. And when you look at how the human body moves and does work in the real world, the movements that best prepare you for what your body will have to do on planet Earth are functional movements, are compound movements, are multi-joint movements, movements that have a wave of contraction from the core to the extremity, that move a large load a long distance quickly. All those classic characteristics that are in the CrossFit Journal that you hear at a level 1 seminar, they weren't chosen for no reason. Functional movements were chosen because they're what life demands, because they're unavoidable, and because people that develop capacity at them not only excel in real life, but also excel in sport and a whole bunch of other activities, because they have a wide transference to a whole bunch of things that non-functional or machine-based movements, while, hey, you're moving your body, you've got resistance going on, your heart rate's elevated, those are all great things. And so there's not this sitting on the couch with the cool guy CrossFit shirt and making fun of people that do other things. That's not what I'm going for. That's not the point. The point is an actual logical discussion of, if you have the opportunity to choose functional movements or non-functional movements, even if those functional movements would be at low intensity, which of those two courses would actually prepare you for when you leave the gym, leave your house, you're out in the real world doing work, doing tasks? Which are you going to need capacity in? And it's the functional movements. So getting back to Ed's question, yes, absolutely. I think there's tremendous value in, you've beat yourself up on your mountain bike, like you said, where is it? 59 years old, mountain bike spills, back, Achilles, and shoulder injuries. Whatever you can do, scale the loading, scale the pace within the confines of still having your body move with functional movements. I think that is going to be, in my humble opinion, the best course of action that you can do to get yourself back to a better quality of life, to better strength, to better flexibility, to the whole 9 yards. So yes, Ed, I would absolutely do that. Scaling, we say at Linchpin all the time, remove your ego, embrace scaling. Scaling is cool. It really is. Most of the workouts that get posted on CrossFit.com or on Linchpin or wherever, they're not kind of hard. Most of them are really hard. And so there's probably a really big part of the population that if you haven't been doing CrossFit a long time, you're not used to it, scaling should be something you're doing on the regular and probably for a very long time until you slowly start to build up the capacity to attack some of the workouts just prescribed. Just the prescribed workouts are really tough. So scale, scale, scale. There's nothing wrong with scaling the workout to fit your needs. It would be as if, I don't know, scaling seems to make more sense in people's minds with some other things other than CrossFit. I mean, if you were following some running site and you just jumped right into the running site and the workout of the day was a 12-mile run and it was day one for you, you haven't run for a while, it would be super obvious that you're like, whoa, 12-mile run? I haven't been running a lot. It's been a while. That sounds like too much. I should probably maybe just go for a 30-minute jog and see how it goes. Like, that's very obvious to most people with something like running. Well, it's the same deal if you click on a CrossFit website and there's a workout, it's DT, and you got 155-pound deadlifts, hang power cleans, and push jerks. It doesn't necessarily mean you should dive right into whatever it says on that day. Not at all. Ratchet back. Make some good decisions so that your knees, back, shoulders, and the whole 9 yards are still happy with you 5 years later, and you've built up that capacity, and now you have a long career of being fit and healthy instead of a flash in the pan because for 1 month you tried to hold on for dear life with some workouts that you probably should have scaled. Okay, that was a rabbit hole. It might have been your fault, not my fault. I'm not sure who caused that rabbit hole. Then the other part of Ed's question is 170 pounds. Now he was at 170. Now he's at 200, probably because he got banged up on the mountain bike and things have just probably started to slide. And he says, where is it? I'm afraid that if I don't get this under control, that this could be the part of my life where quality starts to go downhill. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Ed, you're completely right. 100% right. And it's, again, everyone watching this, we share one thing in common. All of us are getting older. There's not a single person watching this who's getting younger every day. And in your 20s, maybe you think that you can out-train a bad diet, and you're special and different, and you're superhuman, and you don't know what these other people are talking about. And then somewhere in your 30s, it probably starts to catch up with you, and a little weight, a little jiggle in the midsection probably doesn't come off as easy as it used to for most of us. But maybe you won the genetic lottery, and even in your 30s, things are going pretty good. And you're like, I knew that I was superhuman. I knew that I was special and different. I can eat whatever I want and be a beast. It is my understanding and belief that even those with incredible genetics will somewhere catch up with you. I don't know if it'll be in your late 30s, early 40s, 50s, but it will. So all these little decisions that we make of what you do in the gym, or whether you scale or don't scale, or of how you eat, are you doing your recovery, are you taking rest days, you are paving the road in your 20s and 30s of what your life will look like in your 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s. And I highly encourage that you keep that road pothole-free with injuries and bad whatever. It's not going to get better as you get older. And if you did tweak yourself in your 20s and you had a quick recovery, it might rear its ugly head later in life. And to use, myself as an example, I've been very, open and honest that I had a training accident in the military around the year 2000, broke my pelvis. I've got plates and screws holding that together. So that was in the year 2000, which suddenly, that was 2 decades ago. And I'm 44 now, and so when I broke my pelvis, I was 24 years old. Some things have changed in the last 2 decades. And when I broke my pelvis, the physician who put me back together, I remember his name to this day, I'd like to go thank him for doing such a good job. But I was a active duty SEAL at the time, and he said, look, I put you back together, okay? This is a significant injury. You broke your pelvis. You will be able to lead a very high quality of life. You'll most likely be able to lead a normal life. With that being said, what you're currently doing for an occupation, being a SEAL, is not a normal life. So you will not be able to do what you're currently doing. Your best case scenario is that you'll be able to be normal. But what was I? I was 24 years old. Special and different. This guy doesn't know me. I'm going to be the one that is that 1 in a million person that has an entirely different experience than what a subject matter expert has seen through decades of exposure. And lo and behold, that injury eventually caused me to have to leave the military because I couldn't really do some of the stuff that I was supposed to do anymore. It wasn't any good. So, okay. I was like, maybe he was right about that, but I'm still good. And I found it remarkable in my 20s how much I had this significant injury, but I felt really good, quite frankly, for what happened. I was really shocked and impressed. And then time goes by, and things happen over time. And then in my early 30s, it was just the pelvis, hip area was just a bit more grouchy on a regular basis. And then in my mid-30s, it didn't get any better. And in my anyway, long story short, I live with chronic pain now. Just, it is what it is. So whatever injury you have when you're younger, it traditionally will not get better with time because it's probably going to change your posture a little bit. You're going to compensate for it in some way, shape, or form. And, if you're compensating, you have a bad shoulder, bad leg, bad knee, you change the way you walk, you change your gait, even imperceptibly almost. You may not notice it for 6 months or 6 years, but then little by little, that just thousands and thousands and thousands of little changes to your body structure is probably going to make something else a little grumpy because you've been slightly off kilter forever. And now for me, it's been 20 years of, even though I try not to compensate, I compensate. No matter how much I try to pay attention to it. And 20 years later, yes, it's very obvious. So point being, I encourage everyone to make good decisions. I encourage everyone to scale. I encourage everyone to not put more weight on the bar than they need to and have that mechanics, consistency, and then intensity path for your progress, because the decisions you're making with your diet, the decisions you're making in the gym, so on and so forth, they're going to follow you. They're going to follow you. So that's that. Let's see. Let me see if I missed anything here. Okay. MC McRam 47 used to always try to RX. Started scaling because Pat said it was cool. My fitness got better and my body thanked me. I am very happy to hear that. I'm very happy that you did that too. Scaling is easy to say and hard to do because it takes that removal of ego. And I'm not saying it just because it's, embrace scaling and remove ego is a cool hashtag. Like, it actually is what history has, my experience has shown is the proper path. So, let's see. All right. Carl Stedman. Carl, always good to hear from you, man. Bum hips and a 645 Jackie. This is savage. So yes, I put up a decent Jackie. I put up a 645 Jackie, and I truly believe that scaling helps me have a workout like that every now and then. First of all, Jackie's a wheelhouse workout, so I'll be very honest and humble about that. Thrusters and pull-ups are nice for me, and I didn't try I paced the row, blah, blah, blah. But these days, I can still work out and do everything, but I have to pay a lot more attention to my warm-up. I have to pay a lot more attention to slowly building up loading before I start working out. I have to pay a lot more attention to my cool down and stretching. I absolutely take rest days so that my body can heal. And like I said, about once a week, I don't run the clock. And that allows me to just move my body, do functional movements, but at a particularly, less intensity that day because I'm not running the clock and I just don't feel the pressure. And I think doing those little things allows me to keep working out now 15 years into CrossFit, even having busted my pelvis. And I will say this. We had a gentleman, believe it or not, at my command at SEAL Team 4 that had the same injury that I did, but he got it in a really bad vehicle wreck. And both of us, over the course of year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever it happened to be, would go get checked out, annual checkup, where they would check your range of motion, your pain, press down against the leg, press up against me, how's the strength doing, abduction, adduction, the whole 9 yards. And for years after that, I was doing CrossFit, which probably back in the day, a lot of physicians would be like, whoa, you're squatting and deadlifting on that injury that you had? That's terrible. You're going to hurt yourself. Don't you know that squatting is bad for your back and bad for your knees? So I wouldn't tell them what I was doing. I would go in, I would let them do the assessment, and they would be like, wow, geez, I see these injuries all the time, and your range of motion is much better in that hip joint than most folks, and it's much stronger than most folks in the hip joint. It's, good to go. So then I would bait the physician into giving me the green light. I would say, oh, good, so based upon that, do you think I should keep doing whatever it is that I'm doing? Because like you said, it seems to be better ROM and stronger than most folks. And he's like, yeah, absolutely, whatever, good work, keep it up. And then I would say, just so you know, I'm doing CrossFit. I'm squatting and deadlifting. And then all of a sudden it would change. Like, holy goodness gracious, CrossFit. Don't you know your joints are going to explode if you do that? You're going to die immediately, and blah. All the myths that were inaccurate. So it was this interesting juxtaposition where they weren't quite sure, their eyes were telling them one thing. Whatever this guy's doing is working, and he's pain-free and feeling good. But then you'd hear this word, and they thought it was bad. Now, of course, that was back in the day, and luckily, those dumb, inaccurate myths about CrossFit have faded away to some point, and now we actually have, part of my work with CrossFit Health, I deal with physicians a tremendous amount through CrossFit and CrossFit HQ, and we have level 1 seminars that are just full of nothing but physicians, cardiovascular surgeons, orthopedic surgeons, nephrologists, people from oncology, like you name it. And these are physicians that actually understand what CrossFit is, what functional movements are, the benefit of functional movements, what they do for the human body, and they understand that it's not the boogeyman, that actually doing it is really good for you. Do it with intelligence, scale it if need be, but this is what you should be doing with your body. And so, luckily, the time and the face of, the perception has changed, but yeah, just be smart, make good decisions, because you've only got one body for the rest of your life, and you're probably going to want to use it for a very long time. So that's it, Ed. I hope this helped. And again, if you've got topics that you would like to hear discussed in the podcast, just send them to info@crossfitlinchpin.com. Put podcast idea in the subject line, and we'll fire them up. So that's it. Have a great day.